Ring of Honor, and then your obviously the WWE has made more money, is making more money now than they did when they ruled.
With the WWF.
Yeah, when they were the WWF, and they were the biggest thing in pop culture in the late 90s.
If you want to get the complete wrestling lowdown, not only subscribe to 1-800-WRESTLING, but also check out our pre-show available to patrons at patreon.com/DTNS. I already published the prep meeting, Justin.
Good. Yeah, sorry that took so long.
Oh, no worries.
I continued to play Hearthstone.
I was assuming that was probably the case. I was working on my my column, so I never got back in. I meant to take that rogue out for another walk, but I'll do that after the show.
Nice.
Walking the rogue. You know what they say. It'll.
Can I all right here before we don't? This doesn't have a thing, but I just got into a little back and forth with Patrick Beja and Scott Johnson.
Oh, is this about Spider-Man?
Yeah. Well, let me just ask you this: do you think it's fair? Like talking about like Spider-Man Homecoming, is it better than Avengers 1? Is it better than Civil War, right?
Yeah.
I think it's unfair to judge a solo movie with a crossover movie like that because there's so much built-in history that goes into a crossover movie like that it's like it's just a different animal.
I mean, okay. You can always compare one movie to the other. Which one's better, Citizen Kane or The Godfather, right? So in that respect, you can say, let's compare these two as movies. But I get what you're saying, which is the temptation is to say, of the Marvel universe, and then suddenly there's a different set of expectations, a different set of things that the movies were trying to achieve. And you can't really, it's not apples to apples anymore. So, I mean,
I can compare The Godfather 2 to the 1997 King of the Ring.
Exactly. No, exactly. And that's the problem with which movie is better. It's like, well, in what respect? To be, if you want to say, I like this one better than the other one and leave it at that, it's fine. If you want to start getting into a debate about it, then you have to start saying, well, what do you mean by better? What are the criteria? What are we actually comparing? Things can be good in different ways. People bring different experiences into their viewing.
Yeah. I mean, Spider-Man is like Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
It also,
Spider-Man is no Casablanca.
No. Although I would put the 97 King of the Ring ahead of Casablanca.
Wow. You would do that.
Oh, need control when you get a chance.
Yes, indeed. Casablanca is the perfect movie. We all know that.
What if you had Casablanca, like a movie that basically, is Casablanca mixed over with like The Wrestler?
Or King of the Ring.
King of the Ring.
Well,
Or Matilda. The original Matilda, the one with the boxing kangaroo.
If only we had more time, but we have to start the show. Right. Hey, Justin, you want to try something? You want to experiment?
Yeah, what up?
Why don't you read line 3, and then I'll start the music.
Give
me a 3-2
got
count.
it. All right. Are you ready?
Yep.
The Daily Tech News Show.
No, give me a 3-2 count. Sorry.
Gotcha. Wait, you're going to give me a 3-2 count?
No, you give me.
I give you. Okay.
How about I point? Let's do that.
I can count down.
All right.
3, 2. The Daily Tech News Show is powered by you. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Thursday, July 13th. Thursday the 13th, 2017. I'm Tom Barrett. Joining me, Justin Robert Young, host of Politics, Night Attack, Weird Things, 1-800-WRESTLING, Hotline Monday, the co-creator of Action News, the card game, and so much more. Welcome to the show, Justin.
I really got to stop doing stuff. Like I gotta knock it off.
You're channeling the voice inside my own head. Yes.
Jeez. Yeah. No. Listen. It is as always an honor and a pleasure to be a part of this program.
We are going to follow up a tiny bit on net neutrality from yesterday at the very end of the show. But for those of you who are like, got enough, don't worry. Most of the show is about luxury phones and putting diamonds on them. Well, not most of the show. We've got other stuff, though. Let's start with a few tech things you should know. AMD announced prices for its new Threadripper CPUs. The 16-core 1950X will sell for $1,000. The 12-core 1920X will sell for $799, and those are both significantly cheaper than comparable Intel parts. AMD says that it'll begin shipping Ryzen Threadripper CPUs and motherboards in early August, and pre-orders for the Alienware Area 51 systems that contain the chips begin July 27th.
LG has sent a press release for an announcement on Thursday, August 31st, a day before the IFA show begins in Berlin. The image on the invite suggests a V, possibly meaning a V series of phones, which are usually announced at this time of year.
And now here are some more top stories we'll discuss a little more. Uber has agreed to merge its Russian ride-hailing business with Yandex's ride-hailing business. Yandex is the top search engine in Russia, but also, like many search engines, has other businesses. And they had a ride-hailing business that was pretty successful, so they're teaming up with Uber. The combined company will cover 127 cities across 6 countries, mostly former Soviet republics: Russia, Azerbaijan, Armenia, Belarus, Georgia, and Kazakhstan. Actually, all of them are former Soviet republics, now I'm thinking about it. Yandex will own 59.3% of the combined company, so they'll have the controlling interest. Uber keeps 36.6%. The rest is going to be owned by employees. Yandex estimates the combined company will start with about 5 to 6% of market share in the Russian taxi industry.
So this looks a lot similar to a deal that Uber made with a Chinese company to effectively pull out of them operating the business, but still owning a fair portion of it. And we would imagine probably contributing some kind of tech framework, right?
Yeah, I would assume so. They're obviously gonna merge their tech. That never goes without problems. So that'll be interesting. I wonder how it's gone over in China. In China, it felt much more like an abandonment to me, where they just couldn't get going. Whereas this feels like they had a significant presence, but they realized that they could probably make more money and cut their costs a little more, which they need to do these days, by combining with Yandex. So I don't think you can look at this as kind of a fallout. It's tempting as it might be to say, oh, this is because of Kalanick or all the controversies. This is probably a move that, if they had had no other issues over the past 2 years, would be seen as a perfectly legitimate business move in deciding, hey, you know what, problematic market, maybe a native company is better to operate in it.
And yeah, you're right. For Uber specifically, if some of the rumors that maybe they're pushing closer and closer to an IPO, they want to maybe pull in a little bit of the unrestrained growth urge and pull into the let's be as close to profitability as possible.
Yeah.
Bloomberg reports Oculus plans to announce a wireless VR headset later this year for as little as $200, shipping in 2018. The device, supposedly codenamed Pacific, would be lighter than the Samsung Gear VR. It would run a Snapdragon chip, but not have positional tracking. Facebook has said it's working on a device codenamed Santa Cruz, which would be a wireless version of Oculus Rift.
Yeah, so this is not something Facebook has denied working on, a standalone device, but they were talking at the Oculus Rift level and talking about it being a little farther out. Bloomberg sources seem to say that they've basically taken the Gear VR and put something in it instead of a phone, so that you don't need to put a phone in it, but it's also standalone. So you just charge it and connect it to internet, and you can put it on wherever. The article kind of talks about how this would be the sort of thing you could carry with you on a plane, for instance, and just put on. You wouldn't have to put your phone in it or attach it to a computer or anything like that. So $200, definitely the price point that gets people to adopt this sort of thing and gets rid of a lot of the other objections when it's like, well, I don't have the right phone, or I don't want to have to plug it into anything.
Yes, and it's hard to have additional tracking, and what I would hope that as Oculus Rift moves forward, understanding where they are in the marketplace, that is a priority for them. I do believe that the future of this entire market is in something that is not connected to a computer, but there really, really needs to be an emphasis if you are going to charge a significant amount of money, and I would say $200 is on the light end of that, to have the best possible experience. If this is effectively the Gear VR or a Google Daydream experience of putting the phone in there, I don't quite know if that juice is worth the squeeze for people.
It's a travel device, okay? you've traveled enough. You know what a pain it is to prop that tablet up on the tray table, to squint at that little screen that they gave you, to try to figure out how to get your laptop to work. I mean, throw this thing on in a hotel room, in an airplane, and suddenly you've got a big 100-inch screen wherever you are with good quality headphones sound, potentially. I can see there being a market. It's not the widespread VR market necessarily, but there could be a market for that.
Yes, I can understand that dream experience.
And
I would much rather squint at a screen than be the guy with the gigantic goggles on in.
No, but what do people do on planes, Justin? They put on eye patches. This thing could have an automatic sensor that said, "Oh, when we see your eyes closed, we just turn off."
I'm just saying,
now you're sleeping with your eye patches on.
This is on the other end. You know, like at baseball, of course, they have the Mendoza line as the ending of who's a good. I would say for public embarrassment, I'm going to set the Google Glass line, and this falls below Glass line.
But how much would you pay for the Google Glass line to be crossed? I don't know, man. When you're sitting on a plane, I don't think anybody cares. I really don't. And when you're alone in your hotel room, nobody cares.
When you're but even then, are we really clamoring for a more high fidelity experience in the hotel room? Maybe we are. Well, we will see.
Yeah. Mark Sullivan at Fast Company has a source who says that Apple is working to add a rear-facing 3D laser system to the iPhone, possibly by this autumn, so it could be in the next iPhone, maybe. The system would add better depth detection for augmented reality and improve autofocus. KGI analyst Ming-Chi Kuo has previously reported lasers would be used for the front-facing camera for 3D selfie effects and facial recognition, so it seems pretty likely that Apple is messing with lasers on the phone somehow, and Lumentum, Finisar, and a company called 26 are expected to provide the parts, the VCSEL parts for these. And Lumentum and Finisar have both publicly discussed upcoming large part orders that was causing a lot of people to go, wait, is that Apple? So lending even another little piece of credence to this.
Now, this is something that I think really could break into a device market. So let's understand these are Apple rumors. Either it's going to be in this one or it's going to be in the next one. Ming-Chi Kuo has a very, very good track record with stuff like this. But let's take our last conversation, right, about a standalone device.
About Justin's crippling worry about embarrassment in public. Yeah.
Okay, number one, there's a reason why glass holes became glass holes. Don't act like this is just me being the school marm, right?
All right. Fair enough.
There's a persistent problem with that product, and I believe with something else that would be bulky. If Apple got into this space, and let's imagine that Apple was able to do something that looked good and fashionable in terms of an AR version, a heads-up display that took advantage of a lot of the AR stuff that they are already putting into phones. I think that tech like this is more likely in an AR heads-up display situation able to break into the market than, let's say, a standalone phoneless version of that kind of VR.
Well, and the reason that you're probably right is people, when given the choice between buy a thing that does this one thing or buy the thing that does a version of that plus a bunch of other things, will buy the thing that does multiple things. That's been proven time and again, right? That's why we don't have a lot of MP3 players for sale anymore. But I do think that the other thing to consider here is that Apple may not go after the headset right away. I'm not sure whether iPhone with iOS 11 and ARKit will have even a third-party accessory that is approved by Apple to stick that thing on your head. All of the demonstrations, all of the early AR buzz generally revolve around things you can do with it in your hand rather than VR-like experiences.
I totally agree, and I think that it is not first up to bat. I think that they are going to prove ARKit as its own thing, and then I think it is a fait accompli that they will put that on your head, because ultimately that's
at some point, right? Yeah.
But when we talk about the future of what is something that you want to permanently wear on your face or wear on your face for long stretches during the day, or even have a consistent relationship where you want to put it on, multiple times a week, I think that to me, is closer to where it gains widespread availability. Google,
in other words, Apple will make something nicer that you won't be embarrassed to wear in public.
Not only let's take the look at it, right? I just think that juice is worth the squeeze. That the idea of, just imagine if we could actually have what Google promised us in that first Google Glass display, right? Where it was just directions in free floating in the center of your vision.
And less obtrusive, right? I mean, that's the key. Don't put something that's going to be like hanging over my face and then doesn't give me more than a postage stamp of
that makes you look like a Borg at a key party.
Yeah.
Speaking of Google, they launched its Backup and Sync from Google tool, which replaces both the Google Drive and Google Photos desktop apps. It can automatically back up folders as well as photos from USB devices and SD cards. Files will be accessible on Google Drive from any device, and photos from Google Photos. G Suite users are advised to wait for the Drive file stream meant for businesses next year.
Yeah, so this is kind of a sideline here. Is this is a continuing trend of Google to say these are our consumer tools, these are our business tools. Whereas in the past, you sort of just blurred from one end to the other, right? You were a Google Drive user, and if you were a G Suite user, you use the same login sometimes for the Google Drive. So they're trying to differentiate that while simplifying. And I think this is mostly a great move just to say, hey, guess what? When you're taking data and putting it in our cloud, you only need one tool. We don't care if it's a spreadsheet or it's your photos or whatever, and your photos will show up in Google Photos and your spreadsheets will show up in Google Drive, but you only need the one tool to make it happen for you.
What really struck me about this is I still feel that one of the great misses for Google was not just getting into this space pre-Dropbox. It has to be close to 10 years ago. They were in prime position to launch the infinite store everything and then pay a little extra if you are using it for enterprise or business level. Back then, infinite storage for them was the reason why they could afford to break the paradigm with Gmail. Their whole idea was never delete an email again. This was something that I very, very, very much think they have to look back on and say, man, we could have got into this harder earlier.
U.S. General Services Administration has removed Kaspersky Labs from its list of approved vendors. It doesn't mean a government agency could not use Kaspersky, but they'd have to jump through a lot of hoops, probably not worth it to be able to use them. So that's going to reduce Kaspersky's business quite a bit. U.S. intelligence and law enforcement officials expressed concern about Kaspersky to Congress last month. Kaspersky has been denying that there is any concern. They say they don't have any ties to any foreign government or any government at all, and claim that it is being unjustly accused.
Now, this is a story that we almost didn't put in, right?
Yeah, because a lot of this has to do with, well, what do you think are the real motivations of the government? What do you think is really going on with Kaspersky? There's been rumors about Kaspersky being related to the FSB intelligence agency in Russia, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And those are all social and political stories. There's not really too much technology here, except that if Kaspersky can't be used by the government, that might affect your job, especially if you're a government contractor, right?
Yeah.
It could also mean that Kaspersky starts losing funds, and Kaspersky has been one of the leaders in identifying malware and fighting malware around the world. And if they don't have as much funds, they can't do as much of that.
Yeah. And there's really not a ton more to say than that, other than what this feels like to me is jostling and jockeying amongst government contractors. Government contractors, by and large, make their money because they get government contracts, and they are do whatever by whatever means necessary to get more of them and to have them grow year on year. If Kaspersky now finds itself in an unsavory political situation, being a Russian company in a climate where Russia is obviously in a bit of the crosshairs with elements of our government, then they are going to be easy pickings. And it's a shame because by all general accounts, it seems like they are a first-in-class company when it comes to cybersecurity in a time when we need cybersecurity more than ever.
Yeah. So whether the U.S. government should or should not be doing this, we'll leave to other shows to discuss until there is evidence that Kaspersky has done something. Yeah, and by evidence, I don't mean someone saying they did, but like, vetted other security researchers going, well, actually, yeah, you know what? There they are. So we'll leave that to that. Yeah. Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, you can get it several ways. If you're in the U.S., Amazon Echo Flash Briefing is available. Anywhere in the world, you can get the Anchor app, anchor.fm, or you can subscribe to the podcast. That is the least fettered way to get it at dailytechheadlines.com. Oh, I don't like the fetters. Don't prefer the fetters, unless it's Federer, which my wife is a big fan of. And good luck to Mr. Roger Federer.
It looks like he's doing well at, what is this week?
The Wimbledons.
Wimbledon, not done, right? Wimbledon.
Wimbledon. It's spelled with a D. Do you pronounce it with a T? Is that what you're saying?
No. Crazy.
We'll leave that to the Grammar Girl podcast until such time as there's evidence about which way we should.
Hey, what matters here, Tom?
Yeah, let's talk about luxury phones because that's something we all can identify with. Should I best put diamonds on my cell phone? Well, you've got one less option today, rich people. Luxury phone maker Vertu will shut down its UK manufacturing operations and lay off 200 workers. Vertu began not recently. You might want to say, oh, yeah, some startup that thought they could make a ton of... No, Vertu's been going since 1998. It used to be part of Nokia. Nokia sold it to a private equity company in 2012, a company called EQT. Then EQT sold it on to a Chinese company in 2015 called Godin Holdings. And most recently, that company sold it to a Turkish exile who lives in Paris, Mr. Murat Hakan Uzan, in 2016. And Uzan has not been able to make a go of it, so he's shutting down for now, although Uzan hopes to resurrect the company in the future. He still holds the name, the license to use the name, all of that. So this may be not the end of Vertu, but Justin, one of the things that I read, I think it was in the Verge story, was that the fact that you can get a third party to take any phone you want, a Galaxy S8, an iPhone, whatever, and put diamonds on it or make it Louis Vuitton case, or the fact that you can modify an existing cool phone meant that a lot of people weren't willing to pay thousands of dollars for the Vertu phone, even though it had a sapphire screen and ran Android and all this stuff.
I guess that is what is fascinating to me, is that now the technology, and by the technology, I mean specifically the operating system and everything else that you can do with it, because we live in a world where what you want to do on your phone, the worth of your phone beyond its ostentatious look, is really what it can do for you. These are very powerful machines. And for many people, and I would take a wild guess, a lot of people who also think it would be smart to put $10,000 worth of diamonds on a phone, this is their primary computer. So are you willing to be possibly behind on the grand curve of technology to be balling and blinging with a phone that might not be a top of the line Android or a top of the line iPhone? And what I said to you during our little meeting beforehand was that I think the bigger issue is that the iPhone is luxury. The richest people have an iPhone, and I'll amend that to say also a top end, a Galaxy, right? Like,
All right. So when we were talking about that, my immediate response was, but an iPhone ain't luxury. An iPhone costs you $1,000 tops, which I know sounds like luxury to you and me, but we're talking about Vertu phones costing in excess of $30,000 sometimes, right? Sure. So this is the people who are like, no, I'm not going to buy a piddly little thing. I want to buy something really valuable. So to me, it's not about the iPhone itself being luxury. I don't think they buy the iPhone because the iPhone is luxury. I bet people are doing this with the Galaxy S8 too. I think what they're saying is, I don't want an older version of Android. I don't care about 24/7 concierge help.
Yeah.
I don't care about hand-assembled processors.
Nope.
What I care about is the operating system. I want the most recent usable operating system. And then I'll pay $30,000 to have somebody put jewels on it or whatever else I want to do.
I guess that's what I'm saying, though, is that it's amazing. And it really is a testament to kind of where we are as a culture, that you're right. The coolest, most luxurious thing you can have is an up-to-date OS that has all the cool apps. Like that is luxury. And to a certain extent, between Android and the iPhone, that has been kind of democratized.
I mean, my mom living on a fixed income in an assisted living place with her son paying for her subscription to the cell phone service has an iPhone that costs $0, because it was part of a year contract. Same operating system. She's using the same operating system as somebody who can afford to drop $30,000 on a phone.
As Warren Buffett. I don't know what operating
system. Yeah, right? I don't know. Warren Buffett seems like he's more sensible about his money, but yeah.
Yeah, somebody asked Buffett.
Some kind of Kardashian.
Yes,
perhaps.
As Kim Kardashian. He's getting into Snapchat kerfuffles. I mean, it really is kind of, to me, a sea change. And really, we talk very often in broad strokes about how the nerds won. Well, guess what? This is a huge part of a huge element of that, because what we are seeing is, watches. Watches are always going to cost a lot of money because they are this mechanical thing where you are going to value how handmade it is. Unless somebody hand makes or hand codes an operating system. Okay, here's where something would be worth $30,000. Let's go into a fantasy Splinter universe where Steve Jobs is healthy, alive, for whatever reason, through scandal, run out of Apple again.
Yeah.
He assembles a group of people that create, or Johnny Ive leaves Apple, right? And also takes a bunch of iOS devs and says, you want to know what? I am building the brand new phone. The iPhone's passé. Here is a luxury only, unique design by Johnny Ive. I am making my own, the OS that Apple would never let me supervise. This is going to be $30,000.
Well, and I think what's interesting about that is it's hard to visualize what that would be able to do that Apple can't, that would be worth walling off and charging more for. And I think that's the point, is what makes a good user interface for any phone at any level makes a good user interface for a luxury phone, which is why people are like, yeah, I'm not going to buy this Vertu. I'm going to take a good user interface phone and I'm going to put my own stamp on it. I'm going to bedazzle it, or I don't know, bedazzling is not what celebrity rich people do, I'm guessing. But you know what I mean? Like I can modify it with a case, essentially.
Sure.
But the innard, when I buy a phone, I'm just buying the innards in that situation.
And really, no matter what's on the inside or the outside of it, the people that have the kind of money that are spending it on this, what do they really want it for? How fast does Instagram run? How fast, how efficient is the email? Am I going to make sure that I get every email that people
Does that camera work for my selfie? Yeah.
The camera work, right? And that's where you want to talk about another triumph of the App Store. The App Store for both Google and iOS are the reason why this other market doesn't exist. Because let's say Johnny Ive left. Let's say that he made a gorgeous phone that is better looking than anything else. It's got to run either iOS or Android. Because otherwise, who else is making all these apps for it?
Yeah, Microsoft's at the door going, hey, you know what? Getting those apps from people, getting those developers, that's harder than it looks.
Yeah, we're Microsoft. We can literally throw money around like almost no company in the history of Western civilization. And we couldn't build an app store.
Yeah, for phones anyway.
For phones.
Well, folks, I hope that helps the few of you who are worried about where to get your diamond-encrusted phones. Thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. A couple emails here before we get out of the way. Hunter from Finally Not So Humid, Wisconsin says, not sure if this applies to the DIY versus DIFM discussion. That's do it for me, if you're not aware. I refuse to apply my own screen protectors to my devices. No matter what I do, there's always some kind of dust or bubble on the screen when I'm finished, so I have resorted to purchasing them at Radio Shack and paying to have them put it on for me. Is it just me, or do these things give you guys trouble as well?
I have never really been able to I've given up on dust. I've given up on dust and sweat. I'm a very greasy man, and my laptop or my phone, it's a losing battle. I'm always looking.
So you're like, no screen protector, forget it. I just give up.
No, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I have a case, right? So as long as I don't drop it right on its face, but also when it comes to phones, man. Oh, geez, I have a death grip. I'll never let it go.
I don't even use a case on my phone right now. So I'm the wrong person to ask here. But when I did put these screen protectors on my PDAs, reaching back here, yeah, I never could get it bubble free either. I know what he's talking about. Do you want to take the next one?
Sure, yeah. I like the metaphor as the internet as a gaggle of boats lashed together on the open ocean to create an island. The island exists because each person has built their boats and connected them to the boats nearby. If you want goods from one side of the island, you got to pass through the territories of the other boats to get there. If everyone starts walling off their section of the island and charging for passage, then the island becomes difficult to navigate. So much so that people don't want to leave their side of the island to get things because it's too much hassle. I do not agree that since internet doesn't fully fit in the telecom service or info service buckets, maybe we need a new bucket. Sorry, I do agree that just because it doesn't fit into the telecom service or info service buckets, maybe we do need a new bucket. What things do you feel like that bucket needs to cover? I kind of feel like data cap should be included as much as network prioritization does. Thank you for the wonderful, informative content every day.
Thank you, Josh Schneider, for that. And Josh and I had a lovely email conversation about this stuff. I thought his expression of the metaphor of the internet as a gaggle of boats was so well put. Way better than my fumbling attempts to make a lake metaphor yesterday. This is really good. And then, yeah, what kind of thing needs to go into these buckets is a great thought. I mean, data caps is not a net neutrality thing, but it's the kind of thing that doesn't apply to telecommunications or information services that maybe you would consider at least identifying in some kind of new regulation about internet. You may say that, you know, data caps are allowed, and however, if they're too restrictive, there'll be a complaint process with the FTC, right? I mean, you could do all kinds of things if you're writing from scratch that identify particularly things about the internet that are specific to how the internet works.
Yeah, and I think that the reasonable minds can disagree on exactly what we want.
Oh, sure.
Law, right? But I do think that it is, to me, a fairly non-political issue to say, if you believe that the government should totally control the internet or you believe that the internet should be wild and free, the government should have a fair and understandable idea of what it is. You know, even if just on the far libertarian side, so we can know what it should and shouldn't restrict, or on the more authoritarian side to say, because we need to know how we need to keep these companies in line. So yeah. There is no doubt that it needs its own bucket and that we need to understand. I mean, everything that you have done to educate people on this and every other version of your show about what is the internet technically and where companies decide to put in, at sometimes reasonable, other times artificial, roadblocks that trigger payment is very, very, very important for us to get a better idea of. And on one hand, you can only hope that as, you know, politicians cycle and we get younger politicians in there that have grown up with the internet or have a little bit more of a curiosity as to how these things work, that maybe we will get a better idea. But I do think that it is high past time that we take this we stop trying to regulate the internet like it's a phone system.
Because yes, you know what? Ajit Pai's right. It doesn't make sense to regulate the internet like it's a telecommunications service. It also doesn't make sense to regulate it like it's a cable television service, which is the other option right now. So neither one of them make sense. That's kind of the conclusion that I came to anyway yesterday.
And that's the other thing is that I will put down the bet that when we measure from stem to stern the entire history of telephone usage, wired telephone usage, or over-the-air telephone usage, and cable usage, that the internet will dwarf it. The internet will go on far longer than either of those two industries will, largely because the internet can replicate both of those industries. So we need to start thinking of it as its own thing, because it will eventually subsume both.
Yeah. You know what's going to subsume your brain these days, though? That's the new game Action News at actionnewsgame.com.
Oh, man. All right. So here's the cool thing that we're doing now. On actionnewsgame.com, all you need to go is go there right now, and you can click through to our Kickstarter. We have 20 days to go. We have already done so well. We are like 200 plus overfunded. But what we really want to do is jam as many of these cards in to the deck that you have already bought, if you already backed it, or if you're backing it now, the value only gets better the more backers that we can bring in. So here's what we're doing now is every 15 backers, we are unlocking a new news card. If you are unaware with how the game is played, effectively you get one sentence of a news story. Everybody grabs from a grid of sentence fragments, and you combine your best script and read it out loud. And the one that we are coming up on, we're 2 away from right now. We're going to unlock this Scandal at the White House card that covers the breaking of the Monica Lewinsky story in the next 2 backers. That gets unlocked. But right after that, at 745 backers, we have the .com bust of 2000, which has me asking the question, as a man who covered this story from the ground floor, what is your favorite .com or Web 1.0 bust?
I mean, I'll be honest. Flues has always been my favorite. It's
now,
they hired Whoopi Goldberg as their spokesperson. They wanted to create a fictional currency for the internet. And I just found out when we were talking about this earlier today that they ended up in scandal.
Well, yeah, they wound up apparently being notified by the FBI that Russians, man, it all comes back. Everything old is new again. Russian mafia was using Flues to launder money with stolen credit cards. So effectively, Flues was frequent flyer miles for the internet. So if you bought anything anywhere, you would hopefully use Flues to do it, which just screams confidence in your money, right? Like, oh, don't worry, I'll exchange these $100 for Flues. But then you would get points off it. That would be the reason for doing it. And it wound up going down in scandal. But I love that. I think the other ones, Cosmo, Webvan, of course, everybody knows, pets.com. There's just so much of this rich history of Web 1.0, specifically because everything old is new again. So many of these ideas are in use right now. They're just better versions of it wound up coming along with better tech.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm trying to back you right at this second, and then
well, you guys can go ahead and do it.
Kickstarter gave me a 404.
Action News Game, because everybody's rushing there right now. actionnewsgame.com is where you can back us. And again, if we get to 730, we unlocked the white Scandal at the White House card, and then at 745, it is the .com bust that we will unlock. And coming up after that, we got on the docket the Samsung Galaxy Note 7 scandal from last year.
Nice. Keeping it current.
775, the end of Beatlemania. That
wow.
With the release of Abbey Road, the swirling rumors that the Beatles had already broken up. So yeah, a bunch of history. This is my favorite game that we've ever done. I'm so proud of it. I think the design looks amazing. So go ahead and check it out right now. Oh, and you backed at the collector's edition.
Damn right I did. I want that autographed copy, man.
Oh man, thank you, Tom. That means we have only one more until we get to the .com bust. Thank you so much for everybody who's backed. Go ahead and check it out right now. actionnewsgame.com.
Hey, folks, yesterday we talked about the history of net neutrality, and for folks who wanted a text version of that history, I know there were a couple of you, I've provided one as my weekly column on Patreon. Now, normally that column is available only to the folks who support the show at $5 a month, but for this week's column, I've made it available to anyone. So if you'd like a text version of the history of net neutrality that you can share, you can cut and paste it. You have my permission. Absolutely. You can get it at patreon.com/DTNS or find the link in the show notes. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2030 UTC at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. We're at facebook.com/dailytechnewsshow, and our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. Back tomorrow with Len Peralta illustrating and Shannon Morse alongside. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
We did it! 730. We did it right before the end of the show.
Boom. Pushed you over the edge.
We did.
Well done, people.
Got it. So Monica Lewinsky is there. And now I get to start pimping all these .com these web 1.0.
People in chat are like, Tom cashed in all his flues finally.
We did.
Excellent.
All right, titles.
Yeah, man. What do we do?
What do we do? Well, we got like a Borg at a tea party, the Alan Parsons iPhone.
Wait, was it Borg at a tea or a key party?
Tea party. It's a gross thing that we shouldn't use as the title, but it's my favorite way to describe somebody with Google Glass on there.
All right.
I got one more thing. Lasers, some kind of Kardashian. In Russia, Yandex drives Uber.
Right.
In Russia, Yandex Ubers you. Wants laser credence. Putin AR on your head. Diamond Phone also loses the dog vote. Sorry, Diamond Club, no Diamond Phone for you. Get this VR on this plane.
The Alan Parsons iPhone.
Like the Alan Parsons project? Yeah.
One more thing. Lasers.
Kaspersky says niet to government influence. Pacific Rift. Tom thinks VR on a plane is a good idea. Justin disagrees.
I kind of like one more thing, lasers.
One more thing. Lasers. Yeah, because there could be lasers coming out of both sides of this thing.
Yeah.
Could be lasers all around, even in your eyes when you're not looking. Especially when you're not looking. Diamonds are forever. Vertu, not so much.
So I promised that I would tell a story that was told to me yesterday as I started talking about the Monica Lewinsky card in Action News. Friend contacted me and told me a story about meeting Monica Lewinsky.
Oh, really?
I can tell that story here if you would like. It's not gross or weird.
Okay.
So
thank you for that reassurance.
I just want to make sure that you I'm not putting anything on the after show that shouldn't be there.
Okay.
So friend of mine is at a bit of a soiree. He works in the and this is like a big end of the year gala, basically.
Got it.
And everybody from this is an international media conglomerate. A lot of people are there. One of the people that got effectively an editor at large thing that I don't know if I didn't know. It was like she wrote like guest columns or something like that.
All right.
Was Monica Lewinsky. And so,
oh, gotcha. Yeah, which makes perfect sense, right?
Right. And this was
that's the kind of person you hire as an editor at large or guest columnist, etc.
Yeah. So and doing the cyberbullying thing and good work by Monica, and certainly somebody that knows well what it's like to have that happen. So the part of the gala is there are people there in power that are constantly mingling and moving around and making sure people are talking and meeting each other and stuff like that. So my friend is at his table and he's having a good time. And next thing you know, this person in power comes by and says, oh, for the purposes of this, we'll call them Eduardo.
Okay.
Eduardo. Have you? I really need you to meet this person, and in tow is Monica Lewinsky. You have to meet Monica.
Sure.
Monica is writing columns for us. So now my buddy Eduardo has a real question. You have just been introduced by somebody very high up in your company, Monica Lewinsky.
Mm-hmm.
How do you, I mean, like, because it would be rude to be like, oh my God, you're you, right? Like,
yeah.
Underplay it.
You're that Monica Lewinsky?
But you don't want to totally underplay it to offend.
You don't want to pretend like you don't know who she is, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's very, very awkward. And this is a
So the opening gambit would be like, oh, it's very nice to meet you, right?
So
where does Eduardo go with this?
Eduardo, because a lot of this is high celebrity, you know, the media organization does deal with celebrities a lot. He has found in general that you either usually first come in with a compliment of the work and then you immediately make it as normal as possible.
Right.
But since he doesn't want to even hint around her fame.
I'm a big fan of your work, says Knotts. Yeah, that's probably not where you want to go. Right.
He instead says, oh, hi, I'm Eduardo. I do this job at this company. What do you do? So totally underplays it.
Yeah, he underplayed. Okay.
Assuming that she would look at that as a kindness. That like, okay, like
I'm giving you control of the conversation here.
Yes.
Right.
You can talk about whatever you want. Of course, everybody knows who you are. But
I'm asking what you do here.
Yes.
Not, you know, like what are your columns about? Not, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's like,
that's how he meant it, I'm sure.
That's how he meant. He meant it like you can now either I'm the only person on the planet who doesn't know who you are, or I am being very nice and you can go ahead and take the conversation. She immediately becomes offended.
Oh, geez. Which I also anticipated when he said, what do you do?
Yeah.
Because she, being an intelligent human being, knows that he does know who she is.
Yeah.
And takes it as, I'm going to pretend that you're not that important.
So at that point, he goes in to an immediate, let me just make the conversation kind of rude, right?
Okay.
So where she lives, but they were in, let's say, New York. And he was like, oh, how long are you here for? And she's like, you know, pretty quick vacation, about a week. Okay. Where are you staying? Oh, at this hotel. Oh, wow. That hotel. You know, they have the most amazing champagne cocktails. Have you had one of their champagne cocktails yet?
Good move. Good move. Yeah.
No.
Oh, she's done. She doesn't want to talk to him.
She's just done. Just over it. Right.
Right.
Most awkward conversation he's ever had in his entire life. And now, not but minutes after being introduced to Monica Lewinsky, he immediately finds himself trying to find any opportunity to extricate himself from a conversation with Monica Lewinsky.
Right. And she's not going to do him the kindness of like, oh, I'm so sorry. It was really nice to meet you. I have to go say hi to someone. Right. She's just letting him hang.
Because she had to be brought over there by the powers that be. So she.
Right. So now she can't leave.
Right. It's at that point that he realized something that his brain probably realized immediately upon meeting her. That Monica Lewinsky in 2016 is at this big fancy party, meeting big fancy people, wearing what he later confirmed through online research is an almost carbon copy of a blue cocktail dress.
I don't even know how that bears on his gambit and her reaction, but it sure just makes everything that much extra.
So he's panicked. He's like, how do I go? How do I go? How do I go? And then he realizes it, and now he's totally frozen.
Yeah.
No idea what to do because now that's all he can.
Where'd you get that? Yeah. I mean, complimenting the outfit is usually a very good route to go, right?
Sure. But it's not like, oh, look at that. It really matches eyes. Like,
yeah.
but no, it was just.
I mean, it's 2016. Could he go with the like, is that a blue dress or is it really white and gold?
That's a great white and gold dress you have on.
Which one do you see?
I mean, listen, I have a tremendous amount of pity for Monica Lewinsky. Somebody actually, I think rightly rose the issue on Twitter today that he wishes that we had not put her name on the card. Initially, her name wasn't on the card for Action News, and really the story that you have to read does not mention her name. It just meant that a then little known website, drudgereport.com.
Right. It's more about the breaking of the story than it is about her.
Yeah, it's not about her.
Yeah,
and, you know, unfortunately, we're in a situation with that kind of infamy. Is like she became one of the most famous people on the planet in the last days of the monoculture. Like few people will be as famous or as name recognized as Monica Lewinsky forever, right? Until we have some other media hegemony.
Yeah. No, I imagine she'll be the teapot dome scandal of a future generation where you're like, nah, I kind of remember that name, but what was it again?
Yeah. I mean, would you say Monica Lewinsky was bigger than Watergate globally, right?
Like name recognition wise? I don't know. I think that would be hard to say.
I don't know about that one. I don't know about
because
that one.
Watergate got a lot of traction globally.
Yeah. I mean, if that's true, which it may be, it would only be because of the pervasiveness of media being wider.
That would be,
yeah.
that would be my argument. My argument is that everybody was just more connected globally. So
yeah. Because everybody who followed news, Watergate was much bigger. Yeah. But yeah, there are people in the world who just they didn't have televisions in 1972.
Like people overseas who might not know exactly what Watergate is knows generally it's a political scandal involving the president.
Yeah. But I think the same thing is true of Monica Lewinsky.
Well, so I don't think one is higher than the other. I think probably about the same.
Oh, yeah, no. I would say.
You don't think so?
Well,
if you control for inflation, so to speak, maybe.
Well, also it's just it's a story more prone to spread. You know, because globally, if you don't care about American politics, you could care if the president got impeached every day.
I don't know, man. I don't know. When the Soviet Union is still a Cold War threat and the president of the United States resigns, that's a big deal worldwide versus the president got impeached, but he didn't resign. And also there's no Soviet Union.
But again, you guys are only thinking of the actual political consequences. I'm thinking.
Well, no, I'm not. I'm thinking of like I live in a country that is going to get blown up by one of these two people one of these days, and one of them just fell from power. I'm worried, right? That's how I'm thinking of it.
I'm thinking of it as the story with the more salacious aspects.
I disagree. I think because the impact of Watergate, basically what Tom was alluding to, was probably more near and dear to most people than
come on. Watergate happened pre-CNN, pre-internet.
Yeah, but everyone. So this is the thing: how Watergate is a cultural meme globally. Every time there's a political scandal, no matter what country it is, they add the word "gate."
Okay, right? That's because journalists and DC nerds are lazy, and I
these aren't American journalists. These are journalists in Australia, South Africa, in Europe, in Canada, Latin America.
I know what you're getting at, Justin, though, is that Lewinsky's story appeals to people who don't care about politics. And I guess what I was trying to say is more people cared about politics in that particular case of Nixon, but you're not wrong that if I'm somebody in 1972 who's like, I don't even want to know. If the world's going to blow up, I don't want to know. Yeah. They ignore Watergate. Whereas that same person in the same conditions goes, wait, he did what?
Exactly. And it becomes a way to judge America and Americans' puritanical culture, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's anything America does that has a country fall flat on its face. Right? I mean, I would say it's not just Monica Lewinsky, it's the Exxon Valdez, it's BP oil spill in the Gulf. I mean, it's a multitude of things. I don't think that's a stand. I think the standard is like whether or not you can ask a person in any country, in any global capital around the planet, and ask them, do you know Monica Lewinsky? Do you know Watergate? And see what has a bigger name recognition. I think is.
I'd be curious. KV says, where would the Trump stuff fit in? I don't think that the Trump stuff, Trump getting elected, would dwarf anything that's happening afterward globally. Like Trump getting elected is still the big story.
Is it? I think now it's just Trump. It's just the guy. Or I shouldn't say no. I take that back. Not the guy, but Trump, the experience, right? Because really when people say Trump, it's not just him. They're talking about everything that's attached to him, including him, but like whether it's family members, whether it's associates, whether it's the government, it's
Well, I'll tell you what's true right now is that you can't have a rational conversation about it.
Yeah. That I agree.
And that was sort of true about Nixon. It really was. I think people forget how true it was. But I think it's a kind of the same thing as what we're talking about. Like because of the spread of media, it's amplified because of that. Well, hey everybody, thanks for hanging around. It was good to chat with you guys.
Yeah, no, good times. And
Good
now
times.
13 away, only 13 away from unlocking the .com.
Go. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
See ya.